Hey everybody, Cameron over at WeStock. I recently invested in this very large whiteboard to start doing some more intimate whiteboard sessions, just walking through some common questions we're hearing from our brand partners and hopefully help everybody sell into retail much more efficiently and using what we call consumer-led growth versus some of the more traditional tactics that are out there. One of the things that I heard actually just last night from a brand, when's the best time to reach out to the buyer? It's really frustrating because the review for our product is 6 to 9 months out. The date of review doesn't mean like that's when you do your initial outreach, right? You want to be nurturing that relationship months in advance. And that happens with cold emails, that happens with being at trade shows, that happens with direct outreach through LinkedIn, and just establishing that relationship with that buyer. But for this conversation, we're going to speak mostly about cold emails. And I think when we look at cold emails, we kind of see traditional emails, which I'll go over first. They work fine. We think we have a little bit better of a method, and then consumer-led, which is more of the model that we think is a better way to approach it. Let me grab actually a marker here in case I need to make any additional notes. All right, let's talk about traditional. Traditional emails start out and you open that up as a buyer and you are overwhelmed. One, like you're usually getting thousands of emails from brands on a monthly basis, and they're usually very long and very dense. And what you see is brands trying to tell their entire life story in one email, and that's just not doable. You're wanting to establish a relationship here, and you want to get to the next conversation. So you don't need to put everything in that first email. And what you usually see in that first traditional email is a personal intro, which is 2 to 3 lines talking about why you started the company, a little bit about yourself. Then you're talking about a brand intro, which is another 2 to 3 lines, maybe if you're good, probably 3 to 4, talking about why you're different, how long you've been in the market, linking to your website, all those different things. And then after you have a paragraph plus of dialogue, you're going into your why. And that's really the lead, right? Why you're reaching out, why you felt compelled to do outreach to that buyer. And it's really buried after your personal and brand intro. And then after that, we usually see, a traditional ask. The issue with the ask is usually it's too big, right? It's talking about what do I need to do to get into your stores? Way too overwhelming for that buyer versus just how am I going to continue the conversation? I'd love to schedule a call. I'd love to send you some samples. I'd love to set up some time to chat over Zoom. Are you even planning on being at this next trade show? Like you are establishing a relationship months before your review. So when you get to that review period, you're just converting the business. That's it. And then the last thing, the brand deck. And these brand decks can be 15, 20, even 30 pages plus. I'm not reading all that. Like the buyer is not reading all that, okay? We want to keep that shorter. We want to get to the point because that brand deck should really be something that guides a conversation that you lead and not necessarily, yes, it should be able to stand on its own, but understand like that buyer's not going to go through all of that, okay? You want to send something that's a little bit more scannable for them where they can get all that information really quickly. Let's go into consumer-led here, and this is kind of our focus and what we think works a little bit better. With consumer-led outreach, you're going to lead with your why. Okay, so at WeStock, selfish plug, we talk about leading with consumer demand. Hey, I just had 5 customers request our product at Safeway. Or I just had 25 customers reach out saying they wanted to see us at Gelson's. That's how we usually coach brands that are on the WeStock platform. But if you're not, and you're just using a Google form, or you've heard kind of word of mouth of customers asking for your product at their stores, it's so much better to say, hey, one of your customers reached out and that's why I'm reaching out, and really make it a consumer-led why, because that humanizes that relationship. And it also makes it so I'm not just reaching out because I want to be in your stores. I'm reaching out because your customers want me in your stores. And that's a much different conversation point to start with that buyer. Then you're going to go into a personal brand intro. You're going to sandwich this, okay? Make this whole paragraph 1 to 2 sentences. This is why I started the company. This is what we do. You're not trying to sell them, right? You're just trying to familiarize them with yourself and the brand very quickly. This is not a selling email, okay? This is a relationship building email. Keep it simple, keep it tight, get to the point. Then you're going to go to your small ask, okay? So we're not doing a big ask. We're not saying, hey, what's it going to take to be in your stores? We're not sending this at the review period time. So we're not, talking about what's going to do best during that review period. This is just a small ask. And like I mentioned before, that small ask can be, hey, I'd love to send you samples. I'd love to see if you're gonna be at this upcoming trade show. I'd love to schedule a time to chat. Just continue the relationship. Or even ask, like, what's a good time for me to reach out again? So you have another secondary email that they're expecting, and you have another conversation point planned in the future. And then the last thing is gonna be your one pager. So no deck, please. No long deck, okay? One pagers. This should not be a sell sheet. A sell sheet is really just gonna be like your SKUs, your product, everything a distributor or retailer would need to order your product. This is gonna be a little bit more romance than that. You wanna have some copy, you wanna show your product, you wanna show maybe a lifestyle image, but all of that information that you're trying to show in that brand deck, boil it down to a one pager, okay? So show the high level product descriptions, show what makes you different, tell them kind of the growth in the category, but get all of that into one page, just so you can continue the conversation and they have a good understanding of what your brand is and who you are going into that next conversation. Just to recap, buyer outreach, it really starts with just small little nudges, small asks. You want to do this months ahead of the review. Reviews are for closing. Reviews are not for establishing new relationships. You should be doing that months in advance so that you already are ahead and you're first in line and you already have that established relationship when you go to submit your brand during that review period. All right, this is the first whiteboard session. How did I do? Give me some feedback. Thanks.